Reading is a form of communication by itself, but it has functions in other areas as well. In business, you may be asked to present reports or speeches written by others. The advanced menu Interpretive Reading will help you develop these skills. Interpretive readers recreate the thoughts of the author through their voices and bodies, so they must be familiar with the human emotions and motivations expressed by the author. We welcome Arlinda Smith with Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address.
Hello.
Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, Arlinda Smith.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, weeks of wet weather preceding Abraham Lincoln's second inauguration had caused Pennsylvania Avenue to become a sea of mud and standing water. Thousands of spectators stood in the thick mud at the Capitol grounds near the President. As he stood on the east portico to take the executive oath, the completed Capitol dome over the President's head was a physical reminder of his resolve, of his administration throughout the years of the Civil War. Chief Justice Solomon Chase administered the oath of office. And in a little more than a month, President Abraham Lincoln would be assassinated. Throughout the northern states in Europe, Lincoln's speech was highly praised, although the New York Herald dismissed it as a speech of glistening generality. However, another writer from the same newspaper said Lincoln looked unusually handsome, and while speaking, his face glowed with an enthusiasm, and he evidently felt every word that he uttered. A New York Times writer praised the speech for its calmness, modesty, and its reserve, and declared, "We have a president who will be faithful to the end." And now, for Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural speech. Fellow countrymen, at this second appearing to take the oath of the presidential office, there is less occasion for an extended address than there was at the first. Then a statement somewhat in detail, of course, to be pursued, seems fitting and proper. Now, with the expiration of 4 years, during which public declarations have been constantly called forth on every point and phase of the great contest which still absorbs the attention and engrosses the energies of the nation. Little that is new could be presented. The progress of our arms, upon which all else chiefly depends, is a well-known to the public as to myself. And it is, I trust, reasonably satisfactory and encouraging to all. With high hopes for the future, no prediction in regard to it is ventured. On the occasion corresponding to this 4 years ago, all thoughts were anxiously directed to the impending Civil War. All dreaded it. All sought to avert it. While the inaugural address was being delivered from this place, devoted altogether to saving the Union without war. Insurgent agents were in the city seeking to destroy it without war, seeking to dissolve the Union and divide its effects by negotiation. Both parties depreciated war, but one of them would make war rather than let the nation survive. The other would accept war rather than let it perish, and so the war came. 1/8 of the whole population were colored slaves, not distributed generally over the Union, but localized in the southern part of it. These slaves constituted a particular and powerful interest. All knew this interest was somehow the cause of the war. To strengthen, perpetuate, and extend this interest was the object for which the insurgents would rend the Union even by war. While the government claimed no right to do more than to restrict the territorial enlargement of it. Neither party expected for the war the magnitude or the duration which it had already attained. Neither anticipated the cause of the conflict might cease, or even before the conflict itself should cease. Each looked for an easier triumph and a result less fundamental and astounding. Both read the same Bible, both prayed to the same God, and each evoked his aid against the other. It may seem strange that any man should dare to ask as just God's assistant in wringing the bread from the sweat of other men's faces. But let us not judge, lest we be judged. The prayers of both could not be answered. That of neither has been answered fully. The Almighty has his own purposes. Woe unto the world because of the offenses, for it must need be that offenses come. But woe to the man who the offense cometh. If we shall suppose the American slavery is one of those offenses which in providence of God must needs come, but which have continued through his appointed time, he now wills to remove, and that he gives to both North and South this terrible war, as the woe due to those by whom the offenses came. Shall we discern therein any departure from those divine attributes which the believers in the living God always ascribe to him? Fondly do we hope, fervently do we pray, that this mighty scourge of war may speedily pass away. Yet, if God wills that it continue until all the wealth piled up by the bondsmen, 250 years of unacquitted toil shall be sunk, and until every drop of blood drawn with the lash shall be paid by another drawn with the sword, as was said 3,000 years ago. So still it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. With malice toward none, with charity toward all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battles, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and all nations. Toast.